Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Tuesday Talks with Ashley Hanna and Angelo Datseris, your Carolina real estate experts, everything from home loans to buying and selling a house. I am just waiting for Angela to hop on and we will get started discussing the latest news in real estate. I see him on. There he is. Hey.
Hey, what's up, Ash? What's going on?
How's it going?
How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
How's it
Man,
going?
oh man, oh man. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. Let us know if you have any questions in this edition of Tuesday Talks. But what's going on, Ash? What are you seeing in the market right now? Besides nothing. Besides nothing's available.
I think that, it's not necessarily just because you can buy a house doesn't mean you should.
True.
That's like my little nugget. If you would have asked me when I first started real estate, when I was, desperate to have clients, if I would advise somebody to not buy a house, I would have said no.
Right.
But sometimes I think it all depends on the type of market you're in, and things can change. Things are changing pretty quickly in the real estate market.
Yeah, they are.
And I think even given like the past year with COVID and, the elections and things like that, sometimes you just need to like take a break and really evaluate what you want and what you're willing to do and what that means moving forward. So I've had a couple of hard talks with clients recently that have reached out to me and they're like, yeah, we want to sell our house because everyone wants to take advantage of this great real estate market, right? The headlines are there is not enough inventory, right? That is like the headline. So like
Right.
If you're thinking about selling, let's do it today. But hold that thought, because if you're thinking about selling, where are you going to go?
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes we can find a situation that works, but it is a little bit difficult in this climate that we're in. So you got to have patience, you got to be flexible, and you got to be willing to pay.
Yeah. And honestly, be willing to lose some money as well, because I've got a client from Jersey moving down here, and this is a second home, 1.2 million purchase, and he is mostly going to walk away from it. But the only way he was able to actually win the contract was an extremely ridiculous due diligence. And so if he walks from this, because he's got another house that he wanted to make an offer on after this one, that he's under contract on this one because the sellers are being kind of hard to get along with some certain things, and so he made the offer, and if he wins this other offer, he's going to walk from a $7,500 due diligence fee. So it's insane. And he's like, man, I cannot believe this market. He's like, the market is dictating you basically losing money because you have to either see the house sight unseen, or just the house up the street from me. I remember I told you, it went on the market probably Thursday night. Friday morning when I drove to work, there was literally a line of people waiting to go in the house.
Really?
There was people lined up on the sidewalk kind of waiting to get in that house. And on Sunday, it was under contract.
What was that list price again?
$629,900.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yes, that's understandable normally, and if it's priced like under 200,000, but
right,
that's insane.
Yep. So, I mean, and there's, they're building 3 other houses down the street. So, if you got anybody looking in that 600 range, they're throwing 3, actually they're throwing 4 of them up. So yeah, it's just a crazy market, and you got to be poised to pounce on a property if you see it and you like it. There's just no fans or buts about it.
Yeah, and you got to, like you said, you got to be willing, like you got to have the stomach to know that you may lose money, and we're not talking about a couple $100.
Right.
A lot of times what it takes to win in this market is a high due diligence fee, and North Carolina is one of the only states, or it's one of the few states I think that has this with the due diligence, and
Yeah.
it's money basically that you have to be willing to walk away from
Mm-hmm.
the second you go under contract. And in the Charlotte metro area right now, the due diligence fees that buyers are having to pay in order to get an offer accepted are high. We're talking on a house that's going for $300,000 plus. You're looking at a due diligence fee of at least $3,000,
Mm-hmm.
at least, and that's money that
You can't get back.
Yeah, I mean, you will if you go to close, right? But you have to have that stomach right now.
Yeah. So there didn't used to be a due diligence fee, and this gentleman that I'm working with from New Jersey, he's like, what the hell is up with this due diligence fee? He's like, that's BS. He's like, why? And I'm like, man, it didn't used to be like that. But North Carolina, they wanted to protect the buyer or the seller. And,
Right.
if you walk away, if you don't get the home, then it's the time that they had that they lost, that they could have had another buyer. I was like, man, it's just nature of the beast right now. And it's, it's good for it's good for the seller. It's not so good for the buyer in this particular market,
Right. How it's being utilized right now in the Charlotte metro area. So let me just, for example, a
Please.
few years ago, when I first started in real estate and I was working with buyers, we were looking at anywhere, $200,000, $300,000 range. I would recommend a due diligence. I never really went over $1,500, like in my recommendations to my clients on a due diligence fee. I said, and I always try to make it like, if we're going to have a 3-week due diligence period, which is normally sufficient enough to get all your inspections done, your appraisals done. I tell my clients to think about it as like you reserving that house and taking that house off the market, right? Like you are basically paying the sellers to not accept any more offers and to go with yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do think it was beneficial in that state, right? Because walking away from $1,500 and then walking away from $5,000 plus are 2 completely different things.
Yeah.
I mean, it still hurts at $1,500, but it doesn't hurt so much as like $7,500 does. And I just lost my train of thought a little bit.
1,500 due diligence versus 5,000 due diligence.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And what I say to my clients too, like in this market, we're seeing if you don't have at least $3,000 at any price point, if you're not coming to the table with that and expecting to walk away from that as a buyer, then you don't need to be in this market because you're not going to win. And that is a really tough pill to swallow. And and it's disincentivizing sellers from making repairs during the due diligence time period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just gotta understand, right? You gotta set the expectations with your clients, with buyers in this market, what the risks are and what the benefits are. It depends on what you're willing to pay.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah, it's just that I hate it. I hate that for clients that that sometimes it just stinks kind of all the way around. Hey, WS Inspect and Ronald Ramos, thanks for joining. I'm getting, I mean, and we've worked on a couple transactions where this has been an issue, and I'm running into another transaction where a guy's coming up from Florida in South Carolina, is buying property in South Carolina, where he didn't get his appraisal came in real light in Florida. They did a rebuttal. They couldn't get any traction on the rebuttal. So he was out $20,000 for what he was going to use for part of his down payment, in addition to, whatever. So he was going to put 20%. He was going to take the proceeds from his sale and use some of that to put into the bucket with a savings and checking account to put 20% down on the new house here in South Carolina. Well, since he didn't get that money, he wanted to put less money down on the home here. And things are happening quick right now because we're almost at closing and we got to make moves, right? And so I had an appraisal waiver at 80% loan to value.
Okay.
I knocked it down to basically to 15% down payment instead of 20% down payment. And I lost the waiver. So now he's got to make a decision where he's got to either come out of pocket 401k or whatever to now get that, because closing's next week. And now since he's got to make that change, does he just suck it up and put more money down and to hopefully get that waiver again? Or does he pay $500 or probably $700 for a rush to hopefully get an appraisal by next week to get this thing? So the domino effect that that happens when people get screwed, like when appraisals don't come in, when it's that far off the mark, it's a huge domino effect. And honestly, shit rolls downhill. So he's like, what do you mean it's going up? And like the rates and, pricing's different between 20% down versus 15% down. And mortgage insurance has to be put on a loan, whereas you didn't have to put on before. So everything goes up, and it just sucks. It just sucks all the way around. But we try to, I don't know. I guess, we try to be as accommodating as possible when stuff like this happens, but this was like, I feel bad. I feel bad for him because he's losing money on the sale of his property in Florida. He's not able to put as much money down, and then he may have to either push closing, or he may have to pay for an appraisal now at the final hour. So it just stinks.
Well, okay, so my question is that did he realize, like, when the offer went in, like, I mean, how much is the appraisal? Like, what was the difference?
The difference was $20,000.
I mean, that is a pretty hefty difference.
I sent him some comps. I sent him my home value report, and we talked about it, and I said, hey man, you can try for a rebuttal. He said he tried, but the agent down there, I guess, was like, you can't do that. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you can. But it was like, it was real quick. So I'm not sure if the agent was really on his side or just wanted to get the deal closed, but was like, no, you're not going to get anything. I'm like, so hold on a minute. Your real estate agent's telling you that, like, no, you can't try for a rebuttal, but didn't she help you with pricing this home for the market?
Right, crafting your offer.
Then somebody's in the wrong here. It's either she's in the wrong or this appraiser is way in the wrong. You know? So, and it's just
tough.
Yeah, it's a tough. I feel so bad for this guy. It's all the way. I'm trying to make this as painless. I mean, we had him basically cleared to close in like a week and a half. Because didn't need an appraisal. We're waiting on his title and income docs. We had him clear to close, and now, he was like, he called me. He's like, man, the appraisal we're supposed to close on. The appraisal came in way light. He's like, what if I have to change, this? And I mean, honestly, it's been probably a month since we initially submitted the loan into underwriting, and I forgot that we got an appraisal waiver. So when I'm doing the number, like I'm saying, all right, so if we change it, here's the payment and all that. I can't go in the system after a loan's been submitted, locked, all that. I can't go in the system and rerun findings on different loan amounts. The underwriter has to do it. So I had to create the request it's called a change of circumstance. Okay. I had a credit request, the change of circumstance gets processed, and then they rerun the findings through Fannie and Freddie to see if the everything else, he's still approved, with debt ratios and everything else. Loan amount goes up, payment goes up. So just to make sure he's still approved. And then they reran it and they lost a waiver. And usually I honestly don't know of that I can recall that I have received an appraisal waiver on anything less than 20% down on a purchase. So the underwriter caller was like, yeah, so we lost the waiver. I was like, oh man. All right. So I immediately called them back because I just got off the phone with them. I was like, the changes haven't been processed yet. I got to submit these changes and then, we'll see what happens. And then I called them back immediately. I was like, all right, everything's good, but not, because now it's calling for a waiver because it's not 20% down. I was like, we could potentially, we could change it back to 20% down and most likely get that waiver back, but we're not able to get the waiver with 15% down. And so it just stinks, just stinks all the way around for when stuff like this happens.
Well, what breaks my heart about that is because it's like you said, if you aren't working with somebody, your real estate agent, your mortgage broker that is helping to coach you out of the gates, literally out of the gates before you write an offer on where, like, values of houses, right? What you can expect, like worst case scenario you could see where an appraiser would fall between, X and X range. Like, are you prepared, right, if there's a difference?
Right. Now more than ever, more than ever, Ashley, is I'm seeing like people are getting caught with, with these just, either appraisers coming in high or just not having to make repairs. And it's just crazy because you have to make decisions that may not be the best financial decisions, but to get into a home, that's, sometimes you have to make that decision to eat some costs. Right. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but go ahead.
No, yeah, you're right. And and the buyer, right, feels like they don't have an option, right, at that point. And I'm just like, that is, I always like try to put myself in my client's shoes. And I just think about like, how scary is that, right? If you're not planning on that $6,000, repair, or that $10,000 difference in appraised value in your offer price. Like, if you weren't prepared for those, like, that could be financially crippling to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important for people to have the proper advisors around them, professionals, right. Because if you don't see something like that coming, or you don't realize that it's an option, it could knock something completely off course. And it scares me. Like, I get so scared when I think about, like, if somebody is not working with the right person and what those repercussions could look like.
Yeah. I mean, and it makes me take a different look at when when I'm basically pre-qualifying some of these clients, like, I need to take a step back because this has now happened. I need to take a step back and say, all right, are you sure you're going to be getting this type of, the net proceeds from the sale from your home? Because, I mean, especially in this case, we had the appraisal waiver, which is huge in a lot of respects. But in this particular case, it could bite us in the behind because he has to put less money down. I look at myself, I'm like, I don't like to point fingers. I like the thumb point. Maybe what could I have done better? But, he went with a 20% down to begin with. So we got the waiver at 20%. And I don't know, maybe I could have said, you may not get a waiver at 15%, or, are you sure you're not going to, are you, I don't know. It's just something that I have to kind of sit back and think about when I have somebody that's maxing out their proceeds to use for down payment, and that so things may have to switch up a little bit. That's just something I need to think about on my end. Because, when there's multiple transactions, and, multiple things happening with a transaction, the closing, and then you're getting proceeds and another sale close, what I'm saying, of one to one. It's just, You know, there's a lot of moving parts, and it is extremely difficult to juggle all those moving parts at all times, because there's some variables that you just don't know, that you don't sometimes take into consideration, and
or
not
you
just
don't even
myself.
have the insight into,
Right.
you know. And it's funny because we have a closing today actually with a client that had to sell to buy, and it was a little bit of a domino effect, and they needed their net proceeds on the sale of their house in order to buy their next house, which is very common, right? That's a common thing. But I know as a real estate agent that sometimes your net proceeds at the beginning, right, when you first go on the market, like, oh, we're shooting for, you're gonna walk away with 80 grand if we sell at this amount, right? That can change multiple times throughout the transaction, depending on appraisals, depending on any repairs. Like, we found termites in this one house. Like, now the sellers are gonna need to pay for that. Like, so I always like really try to make sure my client understands that, like showing them a breakdown. Like my seller net sheet that I give to my listing clients is pretty dialed in. I usually can I'm a few $100s off maybe sometimes on what I expect my sellers to net at the end of the day. I always try to overestimate on expenses, just because I'd rather them be pleasantly surprised rather than, oh, I thought we were getting 10 extra grand and now we're upside down on this other deal we're trying to do. And so and their lender, like having you and being like, I need to make sure that like he's in the loop with this. Like, you know, I have a client and they're trying to do all these weird things because information comes out during the process, right?
Yes.
And they may tell me or they may tell you, but it doesn't matter. I tell them I am not the money person, right? I know enough to be dangerous. You have to run every money question by your mortgage broker, by Angelo. If he doesn't know, then don't ask me first. Or if you do, know that I'm going to call Angelo and let him know. Because that is a date. You're right. It is a dance.
No, it really is.
Transactions.
When you have, and especially closings on the same day, you close in the morning on the sale of your home, then you're purchasing a home in the afternoon from those proceeds. So just imagine you got two people's moving vans, moving out, moving in. And then if one of those gets delayed or if it gets pushed or if one lender isn't able to close, and if it's not the same attorney, then wiring the funds. I mean, and that's what a lot of people don't really take into consideration when there's so many moving parts in a transaction from when you first, let's say when you first get a hold of a client and you're talking to them, then they want you to list their home. You have to, there's so many things. You have to meet with them. You have to do a comp analysis report. You got to set up pictures. If you're going to stage the property, and then you go to market and what to expect. And then and then on my side as well, it's where I get the proper, I pre-qualify them, I have money down. This is what they're going to be netting from the proceeds, that we're going to use this for down payment on the new home. And then the underwrite process, from start to finish with changes, because every change that comes into play when you're changing loan amount, changing interest rate, changing down payment, all that stuff, you have to do a change of circumstance, and it has to be approved by the lender, and it has to be then sent to the borrower for signatures and all that. So there is a process flow for every single step, every single step of the way from beginning to end. There's a process and there's compliance behind it, and then there's some things that you just can't get around. If things need to happen like that. And if there's a compliance that says, well, no, you must wait 24 hours, with a change of circumstance. And if you do a new loan estimate before you can send out the closing disclosure, you have to wait 24 hours. There's no getting around that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's, and you have to use a lender, and you have to have lenders that, well, for me personally, I use lenders that are fast, quick, I may be, there's some lenders. Well, let me ask you, Ashley, your opinion. Your opinion, would you rather, let's say you have lender A and lender B, and you have a tight timeline to close, let's say 30 days. And lender A is like a week and a half in underwriting and maybe 4 days in condition clearing. Versus you have lender B, that's 24 hours in underwriting and 24 hours in condition clearing. But with lender A, you're getting a 3% rate versus lender B, you may be getting a 3.082, or let's say 3.125, just a little bit. The rates may be just a hair higher, but everything else is basically the same, but you know you can close. What would you as a, would you, I guess the question that I'm asking is, would you feel comfortable blowing closing by trying to save, let's say $5, $6 in payment by not being able to close on time?
$5 or $6 a month? Like,
yeah, or maybe let's say $10 a month, whatever the case may be,
I want to know that it's going to get through those conditions quickly, or if it's not, we're going to know quickly
what needs to happen. Right. Yeah. And I'm always speed, time kills deals. Honestly, time, in my opinion, especially now in this day and age with the lack of inventory, if you're not fast, if you can't get stuff done, the offers that I'm putting, I have a couple with appraisal waivers, and of course I don't have to order appraisal, and I'm using my title company down the hall, which is guaranteeing me my title in 3 days versus an attorney that's 2.5 weeks. Sorry, yeah. I'm going down the hall because I know I can get it done, and I can get it done fast. So and that's what's winning deals right now. Of course you want to be rate conscious and rate sensitive and everything else and fee wise. But for me, where I'm more so like, if I want you to guarantee me I can get it done in this amount of time. If you can't guarantee me with lender, A, but I'm going to be getting may hear better payment, then no. Because if you blow a closing, then there's money involved. You could blow a rate lock.
That's right.
Your rate lock you lose rate lock. If you relock, that could cost you more money. And there's so many things that you don't think about, that you shouldn't have to think about. But us on our side and your side, there's so many intricacies of the workings of an actual mortgage and what the process is. It's like, it's really mind blowing. I mean, I would love for maybe you to come and sit down with me actually at some point and just kind of shadow me for a day when I work on deals and see what goes into it. And I think that would be kind of cool.
That's a good idea. We should do that. We should I'm totally down for that, because every year real estate agents have to take like 4 hours of like a general update course, and then 4 hours of like a additional learning course. There's like a additional continuing education
curriculum.
And last year I did one on like mortgage, the different types of like lending practices and things like that, because I I'm not the person who's doing the mortgage. That's why I have you, right? But if I don't at least have a basic understanding of what it takes to get there, how can I properly advise my clients, right? Like the same thing like with a closing attorney. I think it'd be good to like shadow all little, the people involved in a transaction and share that information, because I believe that like it takes a lot of people, right? From the word go when you first meet a client all the way to handing the keys over to a client. There are a lot of people that help make the deal go. And just like, if the more I understand, the better I can advise. And 9 times out of 10, I am the one who's face to face with the client, right? So the good news, the bad news, all the news usually comes from me. And then it's like, okay, how do we fix this? Like, what are our options? I think that's a good idea. And then we should flip it and you come with me.
100%. 100%.
That's cool.
Yeah, we should do a day and just log it. That's actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, let's put
That's a
that on
great
the
idea.
books for like next week or something.
Yeah.
Or like we'll get together on that.
Yeah. We'll have to figure that out. It's a little crazy right now, but yeah, we'll figure it out. The more, what did WS Inspect say? The more, that sounds fun. I'd watch. Oh, yeah. I wonder how we could put that on yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
Do a reel. I don't know. We could come up with lots of content, and any
Right.
questions that y'all have that you want to see, like make sure to put them like, oh, I want to know what underwriting, like what do you do for underwriting, or I don't know, just random things. Just like give us your ideas, because
Please.
we'll make sure to question them. And you know, I just think that sometimes, and you and I have talked about this before, Angelo, like that we are like so close to the transaction that like we don't we sometimes talk in industry jargon to our clients, and so like, but like, you know, 99% of the public doesn't know necessarily what we're talking about at all times, and I'm even guilty of this when someone's talking to me in terms that I don't understand, asking them to slow down, or I don't get it. So like having like flipping our roles or having us shadow each other, I think reminds us, right, of like some of the nuances that you forget to break down. I know I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
There's so many random terms.
Yeah. That's 100%. Yeah. Because we do a day in and day out, and it's, you know, like the back of our hand, you know, and so, yeah, that'd be good. We should definitely figure something out on how to do that.
Yep. What are you seeing with rates right now?
I mean, they're kind of teetering, tottering. What was that?
We got a question.
Have you asked your clients to help you get the word out on you? What do you do without being? Have you asked your clients to help get the word out on you? What do you do? For me, I just have them do a review. Can P. Carey, if that's what you're asking about, you know, referrals maybe? Is that what you're understanding, Ashley, from that question?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe. I just, you know, by the time that I'm asking for a referral, I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with them. And I'm like, hey, your referral or your review or whatever it is I'm asking for is appreciated. And like, you know, and I kind of just approach it like I would with anybody, you know, I feel like I have a close relationship with them. Yeah. So, and then WS Inspect said, I tell Andrew to talk to me like a 14-year-old. That's funny. Because I'm like, no, I need to break them down even further. I'm like, talk to me like I'm 5, like I'm a kindergartner.
Well, I'll plug WS Inspect. They came, I had an inspection that needed to be done on a property. They came out, he went through it with a fine-tooth comb, wrote up the report, had the report by the end of the day, and just kind of walked through the report with me about what was needed, what, you know, what issues need to be handled. So thanks, WS Inspect, for handling that for me.
I think, Angelo, we should shadow WS Inspect one day.
Honestly, that would not be a bad idea. Not be a bad idea on that either.
Like, well, because like they do a great job, and you know, that's definitely something out of our normal comfort zones.
Right. But can P. Carey, but do you use video to do that? I do have video testimonials. There's video testimonials on my website. You're actually in one of my video testimonials, Ashley. I sent you the link.
Yeah.
Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Because I just had them add that to my website. So, but yes, we do video. You know, Ashley does video all the time with, you know, with closings and stuff like that. So yes, I'd say video is a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually more customer facing, so sometimes it doesn't make sense to like send them a video. You know, it just depends, like, know your audience, right? Like whether video is something to use or not use. But I think that video is a great way to I don't know, show up
For
for your
sure.
clients and make them feel appreciated.
Cool.
Well,
All right, all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Please, any comments, like, follow, share, and there's going to be a link in the page to the post on if you want a home value report, anything that you need to about real estate when it comes to financing. If you want a value report, if you want to look at properties, just click that link, fill out your information, and we'll get in touch with you. So, thanks, Ash, once
yes.
again for an awesome Tuesday Talks, and we will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.